spent several years of my marriage saying, hey, I'm not happy with this.
That marriage was over as soon as she said she was not happy.
Hey, I need this thing to change. Hey, I can't do this way for the rest of my life. And because our marriage was still mostly good, it was really easy for Derek to not hear those things.
Her marriage was still good and she still wanted out. This is why I tell you guys that Western women are not marriage material. If you get married to a modern woman, you're wasting your time.
Or to brush it off when I said, hey, I think we should probably do marriage counseling, because that was easier. It was easier to go along with a marriage that was reasonably good than it was to do the really hard work to make it better at that point.
There was nothing that guy could have done to save that marriage. She was done. She knows it. Going to counseling would have been a waste of money and a waste of time. That marriage was over.
And that was fine from Derek's perspective right up until I said, hey, I wasn't kidding, I want a divorce.
I'm not one of those guys who's against marriage. I'm not against it at all. But if you're going to marry someone who was not trained to be a wife, this is exactly where you're going to end up.
And then he said, oh, wait, well, let's do marriage counseling. What do you mean you want a divorce?
He didn't know what he was getting himself into when he married her.
And so then we did do marriage counseling for 6 months, but it turns out at the end of it, I still wanted a divorce. But there was a moment in that process after we separated where obviously he was so sad and so upset. And I was apologizing because you don't want to hurt a person that you love, and I love him. And so that was just terrible in general.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
The guy was about to lose half of his assets, so of course he was sad.
But he said something about he was so sorry because he realized now that I had been feeling that way leading up until that moment, and he was just feeling all of it now.
Someone had to be blamed for this, but we all knew it wasn't going to be her.
And that is because Derek is an incredibly secure man who, again, as I said in another video, never makes himself the victim of anything. And so he was able to accurately and wholly self-reflect on that and realize that.
What about her? Did she do the same thing?
But I thought of that when I was doing all this research on divorce, because this is what you do when you're a PhD student for fun. Because I found a paragraph in a research article talking about why getting divorced hurts the health and mortality and life satisfaction of men, but women's it actually improves after.
That's because the guy loses everything. He loses his cars, his house, half of his money, his kids, etc. These are all the stuff that women gain from men after a divorce.
So I went back and found it this morning for you. Women are more aware of marital problems and make greater investments in holding a marriage together.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Brock, 1983. At the same time, women are more likely to initiate divorce after they accept that their efforts are hopeless.
Women initiate divorce 80 to 90% of the time.
These considerations suggest that men and women's health and subjective well-being may adapt on different timescales. Women suffer from the impending end of a marriage already in pre-divorce years, whereas this process is delayed and then possibly more devastating for men.
A few moments later.
When do women peak? Do you mean how good our bodies look? I had a good body when I was 20. I have a great body now that I'm 30. And I feel like it's only going to get better when I'm 40.
Now that she's back on the carousel now, she's lying to other women to keep them on the carousel. Do women actually believe that nonsense?
When do men peak exactly? Is it that you know more about the world? Have a bigger retirement account? Further along in your career? Because I feel like all those things come with age for women too.
3 days later.
There's only one line here we're going to focus on, and that's that my girl power shit makes me seem like a man. That's because it does.
Run as far away as possible from somebody like this.